Did you know that the month of February has a dark, violent, and bloody origin? It goes back to an old bloody ritual in ancient Rome that is quite shocking and bizarre. After you learn the truth, you'll never look upon this month quite the same. February is the second month of the year, but in the old Roman lunar calendar, February was not the second month, but the last month of the year. March was actually the beginning of the year. And by the way, this might be a little controversial, but do you pronounce this month February or February?
Think carefully, as the fate of the world depends upon it.
Now, the Romans loved to celebrate festivals and feasts. Almost every day of the month was some kind of festival. They called these feasts feriae. Feriae is the root of the Spanish fiesta. It's also the root of our word fair, as in the county fair. What is kind of weird is that in the early Christian era, when Rome became Catholic, the Roman Catholic liturgical year used this term feria, but in the exact opposite meaning. Feriae came to mean a non-feast day, a regular weekday. Sunday was called Dominica, the Lord's Day, a natural feast day. Monday was called Feria Secunda. Tuesday, Feria Tertia. It's weird how the original meaning was totally flipped in the Christian era. Perhaps it was to downplay the pagan festivals. One of the biggest of these ancient pagan Roman festivals, which was solemnly observed every year in the Ides of February, that is between February 13th and February 15th, which was also the full moon of that month. Ides is a Latin word that means divide. And what divided this month was the very important festival called Lupercalia. Of all the ancient writers, Plutarch alone gives the most detailed account of the rituals of Lupercalia. Let's hear from him directly.
The Lupercalia, from the time of its celebration, might seem to be a ceremony of purification, for it is performed on the ill-omened days of the month of February, a period which anyone would interpret as devoted to expiation. Furthermore, the very day of the Lupercalia was, in olden times, called the Purification.
Thanks, Plutarch. It's interesting that the ancient Romans called February the month of purification, because even the church kept that designation, because it contained, on February 2nd, one of its oldest feasts, the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary, dating back to 380 AD, also called Candlemas. For Lupercalia, the ritual was a bloody purification. The ceremony for this feast all begins in a cave on Palatine Hill, one of the famous 7 hills of Rome. The cave was called the Lupercal Cave and was actually recently discovered by archaeologists in Rome, buried 50 feet underground, a cave decorated with beautiful mosaics. This cave was ancient and was believed to be connected to Rome's foundation myth. The myth has it that Rome was founded by 2 twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, whose mother had to abandon them on the bank of the river Tiber, since the new king Amulius sought to have them killed. The 2 brothers survived, and legend has it, were protected and fed as infants by a she-wolf in that Lupercal cave. Lupa is Latin for she-wolf, and hence the cave was named after the wolf, as well as the whole festival, Lupercalia. The Lupercalia festival even had its own priesthood of young men who were named after the she-wolf, the Luperci, or brothers of the wolf. On Lupercalia, these priests would assemble in the cave and perform a ritual sacrifice. Sacrifice of what, Plutarch?
Goats are slain. Peculiar feature of this festival is that the Luperci also sacrifice a dog.
That's rough. Then what?
Then 2 boys of noble rank, members of the Luperci, are led up to the victim, and a sword which is dipped into blood is pressed upon their foreheads, after which the blood is immediately wiped off with a bit of wool moistened with milk. The blood having been removed, the lads must laugh.
It's pretty weird. So they had to laugh as part of the ceremony after their heads were smeared with blood and wiped off with a wool dipped in milk. Okay.
After this, the Luperci cut the hides of the goats into strips.
Those strips are called thongs.
Then many of the noble youths.
Did you say utes?
Yeah, 2 youths.
What is a ute?
Then many of the noble youths and the magistrates would run up and down the city streets naked for sport and laughter, striking those they meet with shaggy thongs. And many women of rank would purposely get in their way, and like children at school present their hands to be struck, believing that the pregnant will thus be helped in delivery, and the barren to pregnancy.
So, let me get this straight. The women were beaten with goat hide whips, and they thought that that would make them more fertile and have safe deliveries? I wonder if it cures diabetes.
#science.
So in their belief, Lupercalia was very important. It would keep away tragedies of all sorts: pestilence, barrenness, famine, war, drought, hail, storms. Doing research on this topic, it's not really clear what god or gods this Lupercalia was supposed to appease. It seems all over the place. There were so many pagan deities that Lupercalia was associated with. Some have said the god Lupercus, Faunus, Innis, Eberus, Pan Lycasus. Many associated the ritual with the goddess Juno, the goddess of love and marriage. In fact, the little whips that were carved from the goat skins that the Luperci used to beat the women in the streets were often called amicula Junonis, or the garments of Juno. Juno's epithet became Juno Februalis. The festival was originally called Febua, which literally means purifications or purgings, because there was an ancient Etruscan word, Februare, which meant purging. And those goat hide fertility whips were actually called Februa or Februum. So that's why February is called February. It all goes back to the slaughter of a goat, a blood ritual, and a couple dudes running around Rome naked beating women with leather whips so that they would have more babies. Now you're wise to the words. I don't think you'll look upon February the same after this. Check out this video. It'll tickle your curiosity as well.